As Courtney said, we'll start with you, Congressman Klein, and if each candidate would like for me to repeat the question when we come to you, I'm more than happy to do that. Our first question relates to Amendment 4. What is your position on Amendment 4, commonly referred to as hometown democracy, and its impact on economic growth in Florida if it passes, and its impact on municipal and county budgets?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation today to the councils and the chamber. Congratulations on the 100th anniversary. That's a great accomplishment. I'm against Amendment 4, and I've been very publicly against Amendment 4 because basically what it'll do is it'll freeze development and redevelopment in our community. For those of you in the real estate industry, and that could everything be from planning to construction trades to builder supply, these are the jobs that we are very good at in Florida. We know how to build, we know how to develop. Nobody's talking about overdeveloping because there's a process in place for approval of development. But the idea that this amendment creates is just allowing basically a stoppage for all practical purposes of any kind of realistic development. So it's a bad idea. Please get out there and oppose Amendment 4.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
That won't be necessary. I am Paul Francis Renison, running for the United States House in the Democratic primary on the August 24th ballot. And I'd like to thank the Chamber and all the businesses that support the Chamber for allowing me to be here today, along with the other candidates, to answer the questions you have for us. I am yes for 4, and I'll tell you very clearly why. I've gone out and met the folks that are supporting Amendment 4. I've been with them and heard what their concerns are. As you know, in various communities here in Fort Lauderdale, in the greater Fort Lauderdale area, and throughout the Florida area, people go to these commission meetings to hear about a development. Developments are proposed, and those developments are often changed, and there's a lot of issues and a lot of distress in those commission meetings. Even commissioners that vote to stop the development face lawsuits. Amendment 4 was designed to protect the ability of the democratic process in the community. And why will it not freeze the process? And I'll tell you why. In communities, say for example, Hallandale Beach, it's a very high growth area, a lot of folks would like to see lower property taxes. So if you vote for growth, you reduce your property tax problem with more commercial development and more commercial property taxes paid. If you are in an environmentally conscious community and you want to pay the higher property taxes for that privilege, you have the opportunity under the Amendment 4 to vote to stop a development that's being put upon you. I believe in that democracy. I believe the people have fought hard through the legal process to get the state Supreme Court and other litigation put aside, so Amendment 4 is a valid amendment on your vote in November. I support it, and if you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Again, you can go to my website, browardpalmbeaches.com, for any comment, and send me an email on Amendment 4. I support it. Thank you. Paul Francis Renison.
Just like everybody else, thank you very much for having us here. I appreciate the opportunity. I am opposed to Amendment 4. As a developer, I've worked for numerous developers. I understand what it takes to get a community or business ventures up and running. There are a lot of changes that go on when you're looking at the plan, whether you're dealing with the city manager, whether you're dealing with the county manager. 4 things go to a vote with the commission. There's certain things where you can do simple land swaps that might happen to improve efficiency, to improve traffic flow. But these are types of changes, simple changes, that when you're starting some development, it's unrealistic to think that this needs to go to a vote of people. It's going to raise the amount of money it takes to get things developed, to get business ventures going. Because you're going to have attorney fees, you're going to have election fees, you're going to have lawsuits. There's already a system in place through the county commission, through the city commission, to allow or oppose development. I think it's a far more efficient system than any minor change requiring a referendum moving forward. So I think the logical thing is to oppose Amendment 4, which will provide for reasonable, regulated growth.
Also, I want to thank the Beach and the Downtown Councils for the ability to be here with you this afternoon. And I do oppose Amendment 4. I think Amendment 4 is something that will stagnate the policies and it will stagnate the growth of our local economies. It is also something that's very interesting because when we talk about hometown democracy, that's kind of a deception tactic to make people believe that this is something good for them. But really what it does is, as David just talked about, a lot of the routine practices that should come before our councils that could easily be taken care of, now all of a sudden they get extended and drawn out. When you talk about the effect upon the budgets, eventually that means that more referendums will have to be done, more votes will have to be done. And that means that local millage rates or local county taxes will have to go up, which puts the burden on you all here as business people. So the thing is, what we need to look at is how can we make sure that this process is streamlined, we continue on with it. But the most important thing that people did not talk about in this panel is why do people bring about this thing called hometown democracy? They brought this about because we're starting to distrust the people that we put in these positions such as city commissions and county commissions. We're starting to not understand how they counter to, they counter toward their special interests. So what we need to really talk about is the level of corruption that we see in our government systems. That is the knee-jerk reaction that has brought people to the point of talking about having hometown democracy. But it is not the solution. What we need to look at is getting people that uphold the highest standards of honor, integrity, and character to sit on our government staffs. Thank you.
Thank you all. Our second question is on the topic of offshore drilling. Each of you would please share your position on offshore drilling off the coast of Florida in light of the BP oil spill and the importance of the tourism industry to the state of Florida and to Broward County specifically. As you share your plans, how would you balance these plans with the goal of making the United States energy independent? And Mr. Brennan, this will be to you first.
This is my lead-off question on the BP oil disaster, the Gulf oil disaster, as it's called. This is an interesting question, simply because you're asking a candidate for the United States Congress how they would write legislation to prevent another deep oil disaster as we had in the Gulf of Mexico. When I was a youngster, my father and mother had a place in South Padre Island, Texas, and at that time, there was a Mexican oil well that blew out, and oil was on the beaches down there, and it was very hard to get off your feet. So it was a personal experience, and as time went by, the oil eventually dissipated. It took years. Unbeknownst to me at the time, because of my age, a moratorium was passed to prevent deep shore oil drilling in the Gulf for many decades. What happened in the Congress? And my opponent in the Democratic primary here voted for that bill twice. The continuing resolution that let the moratorium expire, and he voted for 6899, which would authorize deep shore drilling. With respect, at least the bill that didn't pass would have put some regulations on deep water drilling. As it went down, it was a release. You were on your own in the Gulf, and we've seen that from news article to news article. That's not the way government should work. Continuing resolutions are not the way we should write bills to allow deep offshore water drilling. And there's no technology. BP had no R&D requirement. It was zero, all because of the way Congress passed that bill. So the solution for me is to write the legislation, to regulate it, so that you and I have the beaches protected all through the United States and Alaska. That's important for all congressional districts, it's important for inland districts, for the price of fuel, and it's important for our industry and tourism here in Fort Lauderdale and the Palm Beaches. Again, BrowardPalmBeaches.com, you can see details. My site is based on the beaches. The 22nd District is the beaches of Broward and Palm Beach County.
Thank you. And to you, Mr. Brady.
I'm all for a moratorium right now on continued drilling. However, I do not support a ban on offshore drilling. So many other things that have gone on. Our government has basically failed to do its job. Everybody likes to blame the president, whether they want to blame Bush or Obama. However, it's also Congress's responsibility for oversight. They control the purse. They have allowed these committees, these minerals management people, to not do their job. Had government done its job? Had BP had plans in place? No one had.